a little after 7 o'clock here. I want to welcome everybody to this week's Diversity and Inclusion webinar. I will, again, moderate with questions or chats or anything else that comes up. I know Stephanie has a presentation for us tonight. I want to welcome aboard Caleb Williamson. He's the new Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator for New York State Amateur Hockey. And with that, I will turn it over to Joe Baudo for introductions.
Thanks, Eric. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're back. We took a week off last week, but we're planning on putting a couple more together over the next couple of weeks. With us tonight on our panel are Stephanie Jackson. She's the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for USA Hockey. I'm glad you're with us tonight and happy you could be here. As Eric mentioned, Caleb Williamson is our new Coordinator of Diversity and Inclusion for New York State Amateur Hockey. This is his trial run into talking to everybody and getting together with it. So we look forward to him starting off real well and having a great term with us. And the other panelist tonight will be Mark Chinitz, who is our legal counsel, and most of you might know him. So I'm going to just start real quick by turning it over to Stephanie and let her get it started.
Okay, everyone. Well, it's nice to see you all. I am talking with you guys this evening from Hawaii. So since I've spoken with Joe and Mark and Caleb last time, I kind of missed my parents. I missed all of the environmental change, and I started to get a lot of cabin fever in my apartment in Colorado Springs. So my mom and dad are kind of hiding out here in Hawaii, so I came out to be with them. So this might be some of the reason why it looks a little bit lighter in my home space than usual. So once again, thanks so much for having me to be here tonight with you all. And really, I kind of just want to start off with a video that will be about 7 minutes. I will show that, and I will ask you all to please say something if you can't hear the video, because I know sometimes through Zoom, when we show things, it can be a little bit tough. But I plan to show a video at the beginning and kind of take you through not too many slides about some of the things that we have going on at USA Hockey in terms of diversity and inclusion. And then I will have a couple of questions for us to think about. And just like anytime I'm talking with you all, there's never a wrong answer, but I like to ask questions and pose questions just so that we can critically think about a couple of things. So I will share my screen right now. Can everyone see my screen? Just shake, okay. And so what I would like to do first is I will attempt to show this video, but please tell me if you can't hear it. Can you hear?
No.
No? You can't hear it?
No.
No? Okay. So then I won't share the video, but instead I will share the presentation that I have. Let's go into slideshow. Okay, and so this evening, really, I would like to talk with you guys about what the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion is going to look like. It's no secret that in our world, we have faced tremendous environmental change as well as social change. And I've been talking with all of our groups about what does that look like for your programs. And so first I want to start with talking a little bit about USA Hockey's diversity, equity, and inclusion values. And so the first thing is we're really committed to seeking and attracting and building a diverse and inclusive organization. And we really want to do that by way of welcoming people from different diverse backgrounds. And by diverse backgrounds, that means people of color, people of different religions and cultures, people with different belief systems, people with different abilities, whether that be physical or mental, across all socioeconomic backgrounds. And one of the things I also want to bring up is that we want to be a welcoming place for people of all ages. I will tell you, in the past maybe 8 months, I have begun talking with a lot of our groups about age and about how some people feel like, oh, well, I can't be a board member because everybody on the board is over the age of 60, or I can't contribute something because I'm younger. Or I've even had some older people tell me, well, that's for the young kids. That's for the young guys and gals. And so I want people to know that in creating a welcoming environment, it really is creating a welcoming environment for all, where everyone can thrive. Another value of ours is that we really want to support intentional and ongoing engagement in education regarding issues that impact individuals in their communities with connection to sport and everyday living. And really what that means is having a good grasp on person, place, environment, and their socio-emotional state. We understand that if we don't engage with our audience, and if we don't engage with our members, and if we also don't engage with the community, we won't be able to know how certain things are affecting them. And if we don't know what's affecting different people from different backgrounds, we don't know what kind of education we may need so that we can be more empathetic to those things. And that will cause a problem for us to create connections with people, and we don't want that. But also lastly, we want to show support and appreciation for people from multicultural backgrounds. And we want people to know that our hockey programs and throughout USA Hockey, we really want to speak a message of unification. I do realize that as of right now in our world, there are a lot of things that are causing divisions and a lot of things that are making people question what they may have thought about people from other cultures or other backgrounds. And some of it isn't good. Some people are having very negative thoughts and stressful kinds of thoughts. And we want to make sure that the message we want to send is that we really want to use our sport to unify and heal a world that is really facing some issues. And so I want to talk just a little bit about how can DEI work for New York State. And so I want to be very clear that diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is a strategy. And that strategy is used to create culture change. And so for us, we know that we want to be more welcoming, and we want to be a place that advances people from different backgrounds at every level of the organization. And whenever I say every level of the organization, that starts with our executive committee all the way through our senior executive staff, our mid-level staff, as well as on every board, every affiliate board, all of our districts. We want people to be able to know that it doesn't matter what background you come from, you can be a leader within USA Hockey, and you can even hold a leadership position. And so additionally, I want to also make clear that diversity, equity, and inclusion itself, it is not a program. I know that I've spent the last year doing so many different things on behalf of diversity, equity, and inclusion, talking about sensitive and complex subjects, so much so that I have neglected to share with people that diversity, equity, and inclusion itself is not a program, but it is a strategy that can create certain programs. And I think that USA Hockey has done a pretty good job even before they created the role of Director of Diversity and Inclusion with going ahead and creating diverse programs. We see that through our 6 disciplines with our disabled hockey. And we also see that another program that could be considered a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative or program through our focus on women and girls. So I just want to be clear that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a strategy. It's not a program, but based upon the strategies and the outreach, you can create programs that can be looked at as a diversity initiative. And then also too, with diversity, equity, and inclusion, it affects processes, right? And so everything we do with diversity, equity, and inclusion is around guiding change. And so that change can happen at any level. It can happen strictly at grassroots. It can happen with the policies and procedures that we're setting forth to make sure our organization is more equitable. So it can be lots of different things. And so how can our areas designate some sort of liaison that will do this? And so I want to say New York State has been a pioneer for doing this. You all have Caleb Williamson now, who will serve as your diversity and inclusion coordinator, and he will work with me to help design some best practices for New York that will help not only grow the game, but also help change some of the culture within the district so that it can be a more welcoming place. And I will say that you all as a group have made history within USA Hockey by bringing in the first African-American person to hold a district board position. That has never happened in USA Hockey before. So I really want to commend you guys for really taking diversity, equity, and inclusion seriously and creating this role. And it's just gonna further show that people from different cultural backgrounds can hold leadership positions here. So I really wanna thank you guys for that. And Caleb, you're an amazing addition. I look forward to working with you. And I think we're all gonna have a good time. And so in moving forward, I also kind of want to give you some USA Hockey updates and where we are right now with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so the first thing is we are now embarking on our own educational development, which education for all of the staff at USA Hockey that will ensue in August. And we will be getting our education from Bill Proudman with White Men as full diversity partners. That organization has partnered up with us for the next 13 months to help give us the education that we need so that we can be more open and understand what our behaviors are so that we can be better decision makers. And so that will begin with our staff in August. And one of the things that I didn't put here is it's going to start with Pat Kelleher and his direct reports. And so then from Pat Kelleher and his direct reports, then the next phase will include staff members at their respected levels within the organization. And then in October, the executive committee of USA Hockey, they will be cohort number 2, where they will begin their training. And then educational development will begin in December, specifically for district board presidents and affiliate presidents. And so with the district board presidents, we are also asking that they designate one other person to go through the 4-month training process as well. And so what that would mean for you guys is Joe would be involved in this training, and then he would choose someone else that he would like within the district that could benefit from this kind of training, and he would choose them to go through the training with him. And then another thing that we are working on diligently, which is something kind of new, is player-led initiatives with our national team players. Back in May, I will say, I had several of our national team players come to me and they expressed to me that they want to be more involved with grassroots programming. And so they want to use their voice, their celebrity, if you will, and the access that they have to different resources to help grow the game and inspire more young people to play hockey. And so I had about maybe 6 players, four female players and 2 male players from our national team that said, Stephanie, can we sit down and talk about creating a platform of player-led initiatives that would have a clear outreach and relationship with our grassroots hockey. And so I am in a lot of brainstorming sessions with them right now to kind of see what we can do and what we can put together. And that way it will benefit all of our membership. So stay tuned on information for that. The other thing is World Diversity Summit. I, over the past 3 months, have had so many conversations with lots of different people about lots of different things within hockey. And one of the things that has come up is USA Hockey pioneering some sort of World Diversity Summit. And so I am in contact frequently with some of our partners, with the International Ice Hockey Federation, as well as with the National Hockey League and other hockey people around the world about putting together a diversity summit. And what I want to say too about the diversity summit is this will not be something that will be new to USA Hockey. Lou Vero used to do world diversity type summits for USA Hockey in the early 90s. And I think as leadership changed, he stopped doing those. And so now has been a really good time for us to resurrect those things to come together, because once again, USA Hockey really wants to send a message of unification, and we want to collaborate more with other people in other spaces of hockey so that we can further promote that message. And we see doing a World Diversity Summit as a great way to show that unification. And then also another thing is this fall, we plan on doing our very first USA Hockey Diversity and Inclusion Fall meetings. And what that will mean is it will be the entire Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. We will get together and we will provide further educational opportunities by way of speakers and other people that will come together with us in our fall meeting to talk about how we can be better stewards of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so right now we are planning that we will have our fall meeting sometime in October. Because of COVID-19, we don't know whether or not we are going to have our fall meetings virtually or if we will do them in person. But either way, with our fall meetings, we will be inviting all of our members and letting everyone know that they can be a part of our fall meetings with us, and it will be all things diversity, equity, and inclusion that we will talk about. And we will have special guests to talk about some emerging issues and needs during that time. So next is the environment and social change. Because things are so different right now for different reasons, I have had a lot of people ask me, what can we do amidst this environment, social change? How can we address some of the things that are going on? How can we be mindful of some of these things as we even talk about getting back to hockey or replacing what we know as traditional hockey with other activities? That way we won't lose the year. And so I came up with 4 different things that I've been in conversation with a lot of people about to help navigate this environment and social change that we're going through. And the first one is engaging in courageous conversations with leadership. I think that a conversation can change everything. And we are living in a time right now where we don't need to be quiet and we don't need to be silent. We need to be expressing our thoughts with lots of different people so that we can figure out how we will move forward and create strategic goals for success. Another thing is holding virtual workshops on sensitive and complex subjects. I will tell you that last night I assisted Minnesota Hockey in holding their first virtual workshop where we talked about everything from George Floyd and what happened there to how we will work with certain communities amidst COVID-19. And really everything was on the table. We talked about so many different things, and it was opened up for all of Minnesota Hockey's membership. We had about, I think we started with, 70 something participants. And by the end, it was a 2-hour virtual workshop. And by the end, I think we ended maybe with about 43 or 45 participants. So the participation was very great. People shared a lot of interesting things, personal things about themselves. And from those workshops, Minnesota Hockey will use the feedback to adopt an action plan for navigating the current climate of our world. So that is really the whole purpose of doing a workshop, so that we can figure out how will we move forward in our communities, really with hockey and being aware of everything that people have been going through. And then the other thing is create a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan with goals and metrics to measure success. Those things are really, really, really important. I've been urging and encouraging everybody that as we open ourselves up to have more conversations, that there's going to be a point where we have to be action oriented from those conversations. And through the action, we have to set benchmarks so that we can know whether or not we're being successful in making some of those changes. And most importantly, it helps us make sure that we're being accountable within our decision making, in understanding that diversity and inclusion is something that permeates in everything that we do, and we should make sure that we're always being true to those things. And so, you know, next steps, for me with you guys, I look at the next steps as being, I will work with Caleb to create a 90-day plan that will include outreach and engagement activities. And yes, some of these activities, if not all of them, will be designed where he can reach out to people virtually and talk about some things, and I will help and assist him with doing that so that he can bring to the table some strategic items that are fit to meet New York's needs. And so those are some of the next steps that I look forward to working with Caleb on creating, so that you guys can design your path forward as things continue, hopefully, to open up. And that way people can kind of have some ease with what the next steps will be in hockey. And so now that I've kind of shared some of those things that are a little bit less interactive, what I would like to do now is kind of pose a question to everyone that I have been really asking all of our USA Hockey audiences. And that is, how does one champion diversity, equity, and inclusion after crisis and environmental change? And I was hoping that we can take about 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of talk about what that would look like. I think a lot of people, a lot of different places are wondering, what will all of this change bring toward a new mode of normalcy? And I'll be quite honest with you guys. I have heard lots of different things. I've had people tell me that they're in fear of embracing diversity due to everything that they've seen play out in our social climate. I've had people tell me that they are in fear of creating opportunities for hockey with populations that aren't usually here because of the political climate, and we're up against an election. I've heard some people tell me that they don't want to be involved in hockey because of that. So I kind of just wanted to open it up for us to have a conversation about this question and what are some different things that we're thinking about it. There is no right or wrong answer, of course. As we do everything, it's just a way to get us talking about and thinking about how we will shape our own decision making as we move into kind of the next phase and then the new phase of our world. And I will give a couple of seconds to think about that question. So please take about 30 seconds to think about that question while I will look through some of the questions I think that have come in as I was talking. So take some time and think about those things. Okay. All right. And so one of the things that I'll do, I'll take 2 questions and that were put in the chat here, and I can address a few of them. So one question came in and it says, does inclusion and diversity include or address ableism? And I would like to say yes, that it absolutely does. We are very committed, I think at USA Hockey, to our disabled sections. And like I said before, we do have 6 different disciplines devoted to that. And I do believe that mostly all of our districts and all of our areas do have a disabled hockey representative there that continues to herald many new programs and processes and practices that meet that need. So yes, inclusion and diversity definitely does address ableism, especially for us at hockey. And lots of people have said, congratulations to Caleb. So are there any questions other
Stephanie,
than that one?
the first one that came in from an anonymous attendee was, how best do we market to underserved communities and break down barriers that would prevent people from taking the leap into hockey?
Okay. And so my question for that person is, what does an underserved community mean to you? Because does underserved mean people that are not here? Does underserved mean people that may be in a particular socioeconomic status that maybe you're thinking is low? What does that mean? Because depending on what you're meaning by underserved, that will pose a different answer. But one of the things that I will say is that marketing is very, very, very important. You can't be what you don't see. And I will say that in the past, I think that hockey has not done the best job with showing people from different backgrounds. And I think that we have, in the past few months especially, done a better job with making sure we show more girls playing hockey. We show more people that are disabled and trying to show a couple of other different demographics. I will still say that we still haven't done the best job with making sure that we show people of color. So I would say that we have to narrow down what segmentation of populations we're actually trying to attract, and then make sure that we put forth marketing materials for that particular demographic so that they can know that hockey is for them. And then secondly, getting people to the table is one thing, but keeping them there is another. And engaging in a lot of education for that which is the other, meaning that if you are an all-white space and you're trying to attract more people of color, I think that it would be a good thing to educate yourselves on society and the world and how the world has impacted certain people with different backgrounds, because that will help you make sure that you have the proper behaviors to make sure that they feel welcome. And those things are very, very, very important. But also the other thing too is diversifying the leadership. If you are trying to attract, let's say, the Native American community, make sure that you have someone in either leadership or in more of a grassroots role that reflects that particular demographic, because that helps when people can make some sort of connection with someone, and it makes it easier to say, you know what, I do belong here and I want to try this out. So I hope those are just a few different things. But for the person that said it anonymously, if you want, please send me an email, and I can definitely talk with you a little bit more about that another time if you'd like. Are there other questions?
Well, the question, the follow-up that came in after that was, how is New York State amateur hockey planning on implementing this program? And I think I can chime in on that, and then I'll turn it over to Joe and say that's why this board unanimously brought Caleb on board, and we felt it was time for a change, and that's why I think everybody has been so welcoming with Caleb, and we're glad to have him aboard, and we're ready for a change. So Joe, with that.
Our next step, and I talked a little bit to Caleb about this. What we're looking to do now is, because he's only one person, and everything we do, one person can't do everything in New York State. So what we're going to want to do with Caleb is what we've done with our other coordinators, as in coaching or officiating. We're looking to get somebody from each section that's willing to work with Caleb as the section coordinator for diversity and inclusion, and work together with Caleb to get it out to the sections. It's literally almost kind of crazy to ask him to try to make it to every part of the state every weekend, which is kind of tough for us to do. But if we can get, we're looking for people, and I asked the VPs to start looking for people, so Caleb could interview them and talk to them, and that he can get a staff put together. And I have no problems if we get 2 people from each section to do it, or it's free to help out, so they can get around and they can start getting the word out to what we need to do and what we need to do to bring new people into our program. So that's our plan right now. That's our first step. And that's where we want to start working with it. So.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say too, once again, this isn't a program. No program. It definitely is a strategy to put forth so that we can think of different ways to build programs. So I'm sure with working with Caleb, we will come up with some programs that can be geared towards different people that are from different diverse backgrounds. But yes, but diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a program.
I was active in one of the founders of the New York City Cyclones, which is based in Manhattan. And one of the things that we did is we reached out to other programs to have them feed us players who they felt were interested in hockey and wanted larger opportunities than what they might have otherwise get. And so we had kids coming in from different areas of Manhattan, and they would, it was a diverse group of kids. And one of the very nice things that added to the program was that we had kids from families who were enormously wealthy to kids from families who were not at all. And the interaction was with the kids was really cool, because the kids were able to have new experiences with each other and how to speak with each other, and they just brought different things to the table. So there's a really big benefit to going to other organizations, other schools, other programs, and saying, here's how you can contact me. If you think a kid wants to play hockey, we can help them learn the game. If you have a kid who's already playing hockey and he or she wants to move up, we can help them move up that ladder as well. But you have to reach out. It doesn't happen by magic. And that's, I think, my biggest takeaway is that you have to be proactive about this. It doesn't just happen without intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I would echo that a million times if I could. I think that one of the things that I do hear from a lot of people from different multicultural backgrounds, as well as a lot of young people that may identify as LGBTQA+, is that they feel like people in the hockey community don't ever reach out to them, or they've never had someone actually tell them about hockey if they've never seen it, or actually even invite them to a rink. And so I will tell you that one of our national team players, who actually currently plays in the NHL as well, he has talked to me about creating like a buddy program or like a mentorship program where he, along with some other players, would kind of adopt someone that is from a different background than what that player is. And they would basically teach them everything that they know about hockey. They would either supply tickets for them to go to games. If they're not playing, they can take them to a game. They'll have conversations with them. Maybe they will play hockey with them, do some practices, things like that, just to show that there can be solidarity through the sport, no matter what your background is. So that is something that I have been approached with in terms of creating a program like that. But right now we're kind of just in conversations about what that could look like.
I wanted to also mention that follow-up is really important. In other words, you can bring a kid into a program, but the kid doesn't know other kids necessarily, may not have come up through the program. And so you can't just bring a kid into the ring, drop them onto a team or whatever, and then walk away. There has to be a certain amount of support, but it's a balancing act. You don't want to be shadowing, what we found, at least back then, is that we didn't shadow a kid so that the kid felt too special, or the other kids were like, why is this kid getting all this extra attention? And, you really sort of wanted to get them in, then back off, and then keep your eye on them to make sure that when issues came up, and the issue could be anything from a social issue or a misunderstanding to, can't afford a stick when they really need an extra stick, and how do you deal with that? So follow-up is really important, but it's got to be nuanced. It can't be like an avalanche.
Stephanie, the one question that came in was when associations are looking to diversify and include youth from different financial backgrounds, and their association has a limitation as to the amount of scholarships that they're allowed to have per season, do you know of any avenues to explore out there?
Yes, I know that we at USA Hockey, through our foundation, we are in the process of creating a special fund that will provide additional scholarships. So if the person that asked that question, if you want to reach out to me through email, I can connect you with Sheila May, who works for our foundation, and she will be able to explain a little bit more about what the process is for applying for that scholarship. And I know that that scholarship will be on a sliding scale, meaning that it's not a set, it's not like a set amount saying you can apply for $500. It will be based upon what the need is for that child for that particular area. So reach out to me, or if you go through our website, you can find Sheila May's email address on our website, and you can reach out to her directly, and she can take you through the process of what it's like to what it's like to secure that particular scholarship. So that is one that we do have through our foundation that I think we began creating it in May. So I think that it will be available next month, actually.
Eric, I want to ask a question to the person that sent that question in. And it's kind of a two-part question. First of all, I need to know what area of the state you're from. And are you talking with regards to the 1 to 2 scholarships per season? Does that have to do with certain sections in New York State have rules on how many players you can take? Is that what we're looking at as far as a section rule, or is it truly a scholarship to bring somebody in no matter where the program is? And that's kind of, I'm trying to think ahead as to what we've got going in different parts of the state as to what they're allowed to do, and as far as movement of players and stuff like that, and bringing players in. So if we know which part of the state you're from, it can make a little bit difference on how we would have to address it.
We'll see if they follow up, Joe.
Okay.
So we had,
She did answer. They did answer it. They're from upstate New York, and it's how much the association itself has to raise to support lower income households. Okay, they're from the Adirondack area, so we can talk to Rusty about that and see where we can do something up in that area too. So.
Another question that came in was, do organizations market scholarships or any additional financial support to youth in our community? Again, I think that would be based on what organization you're with, what the organization's currently doing, if there's policies in place by that organization, past history with scholarships, whether it's strictly a monetary amount or need-based. Stephanie, Caleb, am I forgetting anything here?
I don't think so, no. Yeah, I think that sums it up.
Gary LeBrun, one of our board members, asked if the NHL still has the diversity task force in place.
No, they do not have the diversity task force anymore. That program dissolved when Ken Martin kind of exited the position. But what they do have now is they have broken out several different committees. And so those committees will have a clear focus on diversity and inclusion, but there's not just one task force anymore. So they do have one committee that is exclusive to youth hockey. And so that will involve USA Hockey, Hockey Canada, and other local hockey associations really around North America, as well as it will include some youth hockey leaders. I have been placed on that committee, so I don't know how often we will meet, but I know that every 2 to 3 months I will have to put together reports for the executive committee that they have, which will be set up with, I think, like 3 or 4 NHL club owners that will be tracking the progress and process of youth hockey here in the United States of America. So nope, they don't have the D&I task force anymore. Now they have, I think, like 3 or 4 different committees devoted to different areas. But all of those areas will have a clear focus on diversity and inclusion.
Joe, looks like we're kind of nearing the end here. Mike Rizzo just chimed in real quick here and said, is there a resource to identify college and pro hockey alums who would be willing and able to recruit lower income or African-American players, serve as mentors, staff, coaches, etc., particularly in the female game?
Oh, particularly in the female game. That's a good question.
I'm sure it would probably be both, or, you know, again, in the female game as well.
I don't know about the female side. I have had a couple of people that have reached out and wanted to have a focus on kids of color. I wouldn't say that I've had anyone that specifically asked for African American kids, but I did, right before we had this call, I had a conversation with Al Montoya, who is, I think, the first Cuban American NHL player. And I know that he really wants to be involved in growth efforts by way of Hispanic kids and Hispanic families. And so that is something that I am kind of linking him up to some areas that I know want to have a greater reach in the Hispanic community. I do know that Matt Dumba, a part of the WILD organization, through his new organization that they formed, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, they do have a clear focus on wanting to be mentors for youth of color within hockey. But as far as resources, I don't have a list of players that want to be mentors. As of right now, I don't.
Stephanie, can you go into the chat box and put your email address down? Or
Oh yeah.
people are looking for it. I've already put Caleb's in there because I know the one we gave him. So
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. So,
Caleb,
I
would
mean,
you
if
like to-
there are any questions, you can definitely send me an email about those questions. I will tell you that right now, and probably for the next 6 to 8 months, my focus at USA Hockey will be tremendously on educational development. So another resource that we have put together is we have gone into partnership with RISE, and RISE will hold monthly a different educational opportunity on different topics. Some of their topics will cover privilege, some of them will cover identity, some of them will cover connecting with LGBTQ population. And so for the next 13 months, every month, they will host a virtual session that will be open to anybody in our membership. The first one will occur on July 24th. So I am working with my team back at USA Hockey for a mass email to go out regarding that opportunity. And we will ask for people to register just so that the facilitator will know how many people will be joining that particular session so that they will know what levels of engagement they'll be able to do. So I'm trying to deal with the education before we kind of get to building some really cool programs. Oh, you didn't see it. I sent it to all the.
Just all the panelists. So
Oh, it went out to all panelists. I'm sorry.
I can retype it.
You can retype. Okay, good. But yes, so I'm always available. I will let you all know though, I will be going on furlough August 1st through the 14th. So if you send me an email between that time, you won't get me because we all of the staff are going through furloughs to try to help kind of offset some of the different things that are going on at USA Hockey. But anytime up until August 1st and anytime after August 14th, I'll be available to answer any of your questions.
I mean, during that period of time too, I think we can get, if people have questions and we can't get to you, because I've gotten an email about that already, so I know that. Maybe we could have him send questions to Caleb. He can compile them, and then when you're back online, then we can start going through that way. Or if we could help him answer some of the questions, we'll do that also. But I would like to make a comment to my VPs and the people on the webinar. Please start looking for somebody in your area so we can get Caleb some help and get him started, and let's get the strategy going. I corrected myself on that. So, but we'll try to get it up and running and working hard. And just by resume part for Caleb, Caleb was a graduate of Hamilton College. He played hockey there. Then he went on to Syracuse University for his law degree, and he played hockey there also. So he's a hockey boy at heart, and I'm a little biased and prejudiced towards him because my two kids went to the same school he graduated from in college. So that was a long time ago. But no, I'm glad that we've had people here. And a reminder for everybody, this webinar is also will be on our YouTube site. So you can go back and look at it. As with all our webinars, Eric usually does that right after we're done with them. So he gets them up there. But does anybody have any other questions, or anybody? And Caleb, we've had you here all night and you haven't said a word. So
yeah, I mean, all I can say is that I'm glad to be a part of this team. I grew up playing under the New York State Amateur Hockey Association from the age of 7 till 18. I aged out and then went to college. So USA Hockey, New York State Amateur Hockey Association, you guys have had a special place in my development and in all of my social and educational interactions. Hockey has played an important role. And so I'm just glad to be in a position where I can give back, but also expand the game of hockey to groups that may not have had the opportunity to play throughout this period.
we're glad to have you on board. You're going to do a great job, and we're all here to help you do what we need to do to move forward. So,
Thank you.
Stephanie and Caleb, I just want to say thank you for being here. Joe, do you want to give a quick plug or an insight into next week's webinar?
next week's webinar. Next week's webinar is on registration. That's going to be set up. The portal has been opened to register. So we spoke a little bit about that last night at the West Section meeting, but we will do a webinar next week on registration, and Tom Brandon and the associates will be our panelists, and then we'll try to answer any and all questions you have, and we'll proceed from there and keep going on. So, but otherwise, I want to thank everybody for being here. Stephanie, thank you very much. Enjoy Hawaii. I should be there with you. I don't have to be there with you because it's 97 degrees in Buffalo anyway. So it's a little warm. But Caleb, again, welcome to our staff. And I look forward to moving along and doing that. Anybody's got questions, feel free to call me, call Caleb, call Stephanie, or call anybody on the board. And we don't have an answer, we'll get you an answer. So, but thank you, everybody, and have a safe night and good night. And we look forward to seeing you next weekend. Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.